Thank you so much, Rachana, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. It's a pleasure to host you. For my listeners, I've got Rachana Mahadimane, fashion content creator from India, joining me right here on this podcast today on Karishma Connect. Thank you once again, Rachana. It's a pleasure to host you.
Thank you so much, Karishma, for having me. It's really wonderful to be here, sharing my story with you. Thank you.
Most welcome. Now, the first question I ask on this podcast is tell me about your journey and what makes it special to be where you are today. Tell me all from the beginning. How did you eventually land up where you are today?
Uh, let's begin at the very beginning. So I think Instagram was a platform for me for my creative expression, and I used to paint. And
Mm.
so this platform is where I would showcase all my paintings. So I'm a plein air artist. I paint outdoors. I do a lot of watercolor landscapes. I
Mm.
still do on occasion when I have the time. But Instagram was mainly for that. And I think along the way, I think people were interested in what I was wearing. So I think I started posting these small videos with my fit checks. I would just do a 5-second clip of what I was wearing, showing, what I'm wearing today. And that sort of blew up on Instagram. And I had no idea that it would.
Mm.
And that has brought me here. I think it's been almost 2.5 years since I've been a full-time content creator now. And that was the very beginning of how I forayed into this journey. Yeah, I would say that. So it was a very accidental career, I would say.
Yeah.
I never intended this to be, I didn't even know that this could be a career. But along the way, I learned that you could really do some work that's interesting to you. For instance, I really enjoy dressing up,
Yeah.
styling. I also, along the way, have picked up interest in textiles. So I really enjoy researching about textiles. And I mainly work with homegrown labels,
Mm. Mm.
which means my work is also limited to Indian brands. So it's a matter of pride, and I've really learned a lot about textile history, about various crafts clusters that are there. So it's a learning every day. So that's I think it's been wonderful so far, I would say.
That's beautiful. And were you always, so before that, before actually, accidentally kind of falling in the space, where were you before that? Were you
Yeah.
a full-time painter? Were you doing your 9 to 5, or what was your
Right.
for that?
I trained to be an architect.
Oh.
So I did that for about 5 years. Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think while practicing, it became a little taxing for me and it took a toll on my health. That's when I took a step back and I wanted to see what I could pursue.
Mm.
And I took a sabbatical from my architectural practice and I said, let me just try my hands at painting. And I've always loved painting.
Mm.
And so I taught myself to paint.
Wow.
And that took me about 4 years. Yeah. So I think the goal was to be a painter
Mm.
and also have a showcase, like at a gallery.
Yeah, yeah.
And I managed to do that over the span of 3 to 4 years.
Huh.
And at the end of my very first gallery show is when my Instagram started to blow up
Wow.
in terms of what I was wearing. But
Huh.
until then, it was just an art community that was following me.
Huh.
But I think afterwards, when it blew up, of course, a lot of women were interested in what I was doing. It really, I mean, when I look back, I keep thinking it was a very childish attempt at doing something fun, maybe, and that landed me here. So yeah, so I've had many careers over the years, and it's fascinating to talk about it also. That I've had a switch of careers over the last, I would say, decade.
Yeah.
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 So
You mentioned you've
yeah,
learned a
so
lot about.
that's where I was at. Yeah.
You mentioned you've learned
Mm,
about textiles. Tell me something about it.
yeah.
What has that journey? Because I feel like yours is a very organic journey where you have learned about all of it by yourself. What have you, what are some of the takeaways that you can share with the listeners? And also the fact that to be able to do that in a place in a diverse country like India, what has that told you? And how has
Hmm.
that changed your perspective or added to your perspective?
Okay. I think as an adult myself, I am trying to find my roots. I come from two different backgrounds actually. My dad's from Mysore and my mom's from Kerala.
Mm,
And I grew up in Mysore. So I've had this diverse background while growing up itself, and I've had the exposure to culture in terms of what they wore also. I think I was really leaning into what my mom was wearing, what my mom's family was wearing back in Kerala. And also, Kerala has a rich culture of handloom, hand woven textiles that they would wear. And
mm,
I think my love for textiles and fabrics and yardage and all of that comes from my mother.
mm,
And I think she instilled that in us at a very young age. I probably picked it up from her.
mm,
I think over the years as well, I've had that interest, but I never knew I could really delve deep into it.
mm,
Now, through my work, what I have understood is I think I consciously chose to switch from fast fashion brands
mm,
to homegrown brands.
mm,
Now, at the start of my journey itself, I was wearing tailored clothes, or I was repeating and re-wearing and restyling my clothes,
mm,
instead of buying something new. At this very beginning itself, I think I had a very, circular sense
mm,
in terms of how I wanted to look at sustainability as well. Without even, I mean, sustainability is a huge word, but I'm not saying I'm completely sustainable in that sense.
mm, mm,
But I think it was always there at the back of my mind that, I want to be conscious. I want to switch to methods or even clothing for that matter
mm,
that made sense to me, that had some roots, that had a story. And it's wonderful to know when you pick up a piece of cloth and if you're able to identify the craft behind it, where it comes from, is it cotton, if you're able to identify that I think is amazing. And
mm.
we're losing that. I think that Indianness is what I'm
True,
probably looking for,
true.
and I wish to pass that on to, people that enjoy it. I think it became like these ideas sort of formed over the years of me working in this niche of homegrown brands. I think I started focusing more about the craft. I wanted to know more. So I would work with these founders and I would ask them, where is the cluster? Is it possible for me to come and see them? Is it possible for me to learn or to like watch them, make the textile? And I think a lot of us millennials are also wanting to go back to these roots. I do see that in my own, my peers wanting to adapt this as well,
Yeah,
as part of their wardrobe. So I think it's been a great. One is that I am learning. I'm also educating. So there are two things that I'm doing.
yeah.
So it's great to be in this space and to be able to do that. Mm.
What is the beauty of that sort of slow life that you've observed over the years? And I'll tell you, this question comes from somebody else I had actually even interviewed, and she was somebody who was a social entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
and she worked
Mm-hmm.
with technology,
Mm-hmm.
better the lives of farmers. And
Mm-hmm.
she was talking
Mm-hmm.
how I asked her, I said, what did you notice about these workers who you're, supporting? And she said, the beautiful part is that
Mm-hmm.
we are also caught up in the rush of it, but they're actually living life from moment to moment. I want to ask you, what have you noticed about,
Mm-hmm.
all the sort of people you're observing on ground when you're going to these places or when you're speaking to these founders? What are some of the things you've noticed that keeps them
Mm-hmm.
driving, and what has fascinated, or what is so fascinating about that slow life in the world that we are in right now?
I would begin with how every village, like for instance, let's take an example. Mysore silk comes from in and around Mysore. I grew up in Mysore, and I also know this for a fact that the silk is grown in and around Mysore and it has a GI tag. Now that becomes their livelihood.
Mm.
They don't look at it as fashion, or they are not looking at it as a sari or anything. That
Mm.
becomes their way of life. They are doing this day in and day out, whether
Mm.
they rain or shine. I mean, they continue to do it, and there's a certain sense of dedication and being one with the soil, being grounded, being rooted in what they're doing, right? I
Mm.
think that is what is really fascinating for me to learn. And
Mm.
also, I think the fact that all of these artisans,
Mm.
provide for their family just through this craft, let's say any craft for that matter,
Yeah.
that itself is so humbling, right? And I think that we are losing that what do you say? That being, I think for me, for myself, I think being grounded is what I'm chasing. To
Mm.
be able to be grounded, to be rooted to where I am. And I think we're losing that in that sense because it's so fast paced now. And I
Yeah.
don't think anyone makes anything with their hands anymore. So to watch hands making things and making beautiful things with
Mm.
their hands, I think it really makes you stop and think about life, I would say. It really does.
Very true. Very true. I want to ask you, as a millennial, more got to do with the curation aspect of what you do. As a millennial, if
Mhm.
you tell other millennials about three three sort of textile crafts that they should explore or they don't know as much about, and that came as probably a surprise to you as well. What would you share? Or three
I
sort of
think I would talk about Kora cotton.
yeah, go ahead.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I would talk about Kora cotton.
Mm.
That's something that I learned very newly. This is a rain-fed cotton crop, so the texture is very hard as well,
Mm.
unlike your mercerized cotton or treated cotton.
Mm.
So cotton industry is also the largest pollutant, actually, soil pollutant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Kora cotton is the alternative to your regular cotton, and it's a beautiful texture. And that's something that I learned. And it's usually it's grown mostly around Rajasthan, parts of Rajasthan,
Okay.
and some parts of Telangana as well,
Mm.
if I'm correct.
Mm.
So, arid regions, that's where cotton crop grows. And this specifically, they don't dye it also. So it has this natural earthy hue.
Mm. Mm.
So it's a beautiful fabric. That's one fabric that I would talk about.
Mm.
I would not really, really say look at textiles, but I would say invest in crafts. When you look at your own wardrobe, think
Mm.
about what is the craft that you've not bought. Like let's say I don't have a real bandhani yet.
Mm.
I'm waiting to procure a beautiful bandhani for myself, but I want to buy from a craft person rather than a large store. So I'm waiting for the opportunity. I'll probably travel there and pick it up. So it is on my travels that I also learn about these textiles.
Yeah.
For instance, when I go to cotton, when I go to Tamil Nadu, the kind of cotton saris they produce are amazing. There's also a beautiful textile which has roots in the Bandhani, but it is produced in Tamil Nadu, in parts of Tamil Nadu.
Mm.
Now,
Mm.
see, that's a textile that I would have never learned about unless I travel, right? So it's on my travels that I go to the local markets and I find out what we visit and where is the cluster, how
Mm.
long does it take to make a sari and all of that. So I think instead of saying try a particular fabric, I would say when you travel or when you're in a city, try and find out what is that women wore. If you're a woman or if you're a man, you could say what is that a man wears in that particular region. And there's a specific region why a particular fabric is used.
Mm,
in
mm,
a region because of the weather conditions and all of that, right?
mm.
So I think you really just need to take a minute, go to the local market, find out what the locals are wearing, and you'll find yourself something very genuine, like a craft that is very genuine. I think that's where you have to begin. That would be, yeah. I mean, if I had to induce someone, this is how I would take them through that.
Got you. And what are some of your favorite brands to recommend?
Oh, oh, we have so many. Now, I also work with a lot of sari brands, a lot of brands that do, different kinds of silhouettes. So it's really hard to pick. And if I had to pick right off the bat, I think sari is a favorite thing for me. So I
Mm.
would start with Kupsa.
Okay.
It's a beautiful label founded by Geeta Patil, and they explore Khana, which is a textile based in North Karnataka.
Okay.
So that is a wonderful label, and I really, really enjoyed documenting them as well, and also learning about the craft.
Yeah.
Um, uh, what else? There are so many. Summer House, which is a Bangalore-based label.
Okay.
Beautiful work again. I think they have been doing pret wear, but they're also very conscious about crafts, and they also bring a beautiful amalgamation of different crafts and textiles.
Mm.
But they do modern silhouettes, so that is something that I really love. Summer House. They're in fact based out of the very neighborhood I'm in, so like it's very close to my heart.
Mm.
Um, and I think I would like to stick to two maybe because I don't want to name so many because every brand has its own beauty. I think a lot of young founders are doing amazing work with fashion brands now in India because everything is slow made
Mm.
and everything is made to measure. Nothing is available for you to buy instantly. So that is the kind of process that these new age brands are doing now. So that I really enjoy about the smaller brands.
I want to ask one more question, and feel free to tell me if you can or cannot answer. But it's a stereotype that I've seen around the world actually against the fact, and
Mm,
I think that's what
mm,
stops
mm,
the pickup of slow fashion or slow anything in the cracks because of the perception
mm.
of it coming with an extra sort of commercial tag to it. Have you noticed the same? And
Right.
is that a myth that you would like to bust for me?
Hmm.
Because I personally, as somebody who has
No.
made one
Yeah.
right here at home, thinks a little differently around that. So, but I want to hear from you on that.
Hmm. I do understand that. That's a concern that the community that I've built have constantly told me that all of these brands that you wear or talk about,
Mm,
they also come with a certain price tag. And I'm like, yes, they do because I also see, for instance, a sari takes like I was at a unit which made kalamkari saris the traditional way,
mm,
and a sari takes 3 months to produce, to draw, to hand paint it, and to color it, and to finally finish the sari. It takes 3 months.
yeah,
Imagine it is and,
fancy.
and you're paying wages, and you also have to. I think the way I look at it is look at brands that are doing genuine work in the
Mm,
sense like I am doing the research. I do the research when I work with brands. I also see if they're doing fair wages to their workers.
mm, mm. You go to that.
Only then I am, yeah, I try to say, okay, this is working. So, yeah, so if you are getting paid a certain amount at this day and age, think about the inflation for them as well, though.
Mm,
So that is how I look at it. So when you look at a particular piece of clothing that is, let's say, slightly overpriced than your regular fast fashion brands,
mm,
you are investing in that piece and look at it as a long-term wear. Like I always tell people that when you pick a clothing,
mm,
see if you can wear it for the next 10 years.
mm,
Invest in a craft that you don't have in your wardrobe and invest in brands that you know, like that you can ask questions to these founders. They're very happy to walk you through their process. So investing in good fabric, make sure that it lasts long enough. Let's say 10 years or 15 years. Some of my clothes last that long. And then you can pass it down. So look at it as an heirloom piece rather than something that you would just wear once and probably discard.
Yeah.
Now, then I think the price, yeah, and also save up. And all of these brands have sales every quarter or every 6 months once.
Mm.
So always wait for the sale and pick up a piece that you really covet. And
Mm.
there's a joy in owning a piece that you've been dreaming about for 3 to 4 months.
Yeah.
That, I think that kind of gratification you cannot compare to like the instant online orders.
True
So
that.
this is how, yeah, yeah, yeah. This is how I explain that this is the reason why they are priced that way.
Very true. Rachna, my last question to you is you mentioned travel, you mentioned painting, and that too, you specified
Mm,
yours. You mentioned, traveling to explore different cultures and then, of course, the crafts behind it. So I need to ask you this, and I'll wrap up the interview with that. Tell me sort of three
mm,
destinations that in India that are extremely beautiful, or your sort of recommendations for beautiful for painters like you to kind of sit down in the grass and paint their beautiful landscapes, explore different crafts, and just enjoy the spirit of travel
mm,
right in the homeland.
mm. I would start with Mysore, my
Mm.
hometown. I think it's so culturally rich. Part of why I think I lean towards this is because I come from Mysore, because I think I was exposed to it when I was young. The architecture,
Yeah.
the cultural aspect at Mysore, and of course, rich textile heritage as well. And for painters, of course, there's beautiful, beautiful sceneries, beautiful buildings to look at, beautiful art galleries, a lot of Ravi Verma paintings.
Mm.
So I think Mysore would be my top one recommendation. And Hampi, I would say. Hampi is also extremely culturally rich. There are a lot of beautiful clusters, artisan clusters that are working around Hampi to produce, products out of banana fiber and things like that. So it's really interesting. And so there are a lot of initiatives that are around Hampi that's also doing culturally rich, like walks, heritage walks, and also talking you about the craft clusters that exist in Hampi, and also the beautiful landscape again. Hampi is beautiful for a painter, I would say. Um, there's a lot of history, of course. I think that's the second destination that I would recommend.
Mm.
The third would be Kerala, of course. I think Kochi. Kochi would be my third recommendation. There is a lovely cluster of artisans a little off of Kochi where you can go look at where Kasavu saris are made. That is the only artisanal cluster that still survives now. And Kochi, of course, the Binale. If you're an artist or if you are inclined towards the art, it's great to go. Binale is happening right now, in fact. So it's great to go see that, be inspired, and of course, the beautiful buildings, beautiful landscape around you. I think it's beautiful. It's just invigorating.
I've been to Mysore myself, so I completely endorse what you say. Thank you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so much, Rachna, for joining me on this.
Thank you. Thank you, Karishma. Thank you so much.